Hey, Jim Warren with TechSap. I just wanted to welcome you to Everyday Asphalt this month. Did a great program with Charles Gurganus. Just wanted to kind of touch on a couple highlights, see if you might be interested in participating in it, and welcome aboard. We talked about heavy duty pavements, heavy duty intersections. We talked about the Highway Workforce Construction Partnership that he's working on, and we even talked about the Asphalt Rodeo. Got a lot of really cool stuff happening in all those different areas. Talked about a little education stuff as well. Great opportunity. Charles is a great guy, great part of this industry, and working on a really whole bunch of great programs to kind of help us out and help move everything forward. So come watch us. Come see us. Ever forward, everybody. Take care now. Hey, welcome to Everyday Asphalt. My name is Jim Warren. I'm with the Texas Asphalt Pavement Association. Glad to have you guys here today. The purpose of this program is to go a little bit deeper in the areas of materials, design, construction, and maintenance. And that's the purpose. So we're going to spend some time today talking about some of those items and also meeting some people from the industry. We post these programs on our YouTube site. If you go to YouTube and type in TexApp or Texas Asphalt Pavement Association, you'll find us there. Please like and subscribe. We also take these programs and we strip out the video and we put them up on Apple Podcast and Spotify. So if you're driving the road, you can wind us up and listen to us chatting away in the process. So please remember to subscribe. Our guest today is Dr. Charles Gurganus with Texas A&M University in College Station. We had planned to get together yesterday out there, but we just got too busy and we ran out of time. So we're having to do it this way. But I love spending time talking to Charles. So Charles, welcome to Everyday Asphalt.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for the invitation, Jim. Sorry I missed you yesterday. That was
Yeah,
my fault, not Jim's.
but we communication. We always got to work on communication skills, and I think I dropped the ball too yesterday. So anyway, for those that don't know you, and there's probably maybe one or two out there that don't, walk us through your brief history here, and so we kind of let me know kind of where you started and why you're sitting in that chair at A&M right now.
Yeah, so it's a pretty weird career arc, to be honest with you, Jim. I've been under the A&M umbrella since 2014. So, like about the last decade, I've been in the ivory tower, so to speak, both as a research engineer and as a faculty member. I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second. Before that, though, like the first decade of my career spent in the heavy highway industry, most of it with Texas Department of Transportation up in the East Texas area, Tyler
Okay.
District mainly, was the Longview area engineer.
Okay.
When I left TxDOT because I got a wild hair and wanted to get a PhD, and I'm married to a crazy woman that said, let's give it a shot. So came back, started working on it, also started doing research for TTI, Texas A&M Transportation
Hmm.
Institute. That led me to the whole research world. Then I started having some chances to get in the classroom at A&M. Really enjoyed that. And actually, in June of 2024, construction science here at Texas A&M kind of made me an offer too good to pass up. And so I switched from research engineer to faculty member,
Okay.
which really, I still carry all of my same research portfolio. I still do research just like I've always done, but now I also have some professor responsibilities and that sort of thing. So that's the reason I sit in the chair I sit right here on Francis
So
Hall
you
on
weren't
A&M's
busy
main
enough.
campus.
You had to add more stuff to your plate.
I think like my wife always gives me a hard time about like when I'm going to pick a job and stick with it and actually do it. And I always remind her that Barbara Bush used to say that to George H.W. also. So,
There you
maybe
go.
I'm in good company or
There you
something. I
go.
don't know.
Well, I'll vote for you when you run for president. How about that?
Yeah.
All right. So we wanted to talk about, I want to talk about kind of three specific, completely different areas. okay? Because I love you because you're involved in all this other kind of stuff. Um, one is this highway construction workforce partnership, and also want to talk to you about heavy duty intersections because that's starting to pop up here, and you've been very helpful with kind of laying the groundwork for that. And then I also want to talk about the rodeo, the asphalt rodeo that we had here about 2 weeks ago, and talk about your team. So let's start with the highway workforce partnership. How did that come about? And give us the kind of the nickel tour of what that looks like.
Sure. So, we hear from industry all the time. We're starved for workers,
Hmm.
and it I think runs the gamut from frontline workers all the way up to project managers, right? But I had this idea of let's help industry get new frontline workers, and let's put together a program that trains them specifically in asphalt paving and production.
Got it.
And so I got some seed money to develop this cohort. And we're actually in the middle, and thanks to you, Jim, for coming up yesterday. We're in the middle of our third cohort right now, and where we're really trying to take people that don't really have a career trajectory, either because they're switching careers, they're just out of high school, don't know what they want to do, a lot of reasons, right? And plug them into the asphalt paving or production industry.
Okay.
And so what we've built in its current form is a 6 week program. It's 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. We bring participants in. We drug test them before they come in. So we go ahead and get that out of the way because
Yeah.
it's a thing for our
Yep.
industry, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then we get them out there and they get OSHA 10 certified. They get Flagger certified. They get contractor responsible person traffic control certified. So they get those three certifications in the program. Uh, they get front end loader in skid steer training. And this year, I need to say a big thank you to Knife River, who actually sent their Caterpillar certified instructors,
Wow.
years of professional experience, here to do the training for me at no cost to the program. So
Wow.
thanks a bunch to Knife River for doing that for us. So they get that type of training. Then Texapa comes up, who's really helped guide the curriculum and help, and has been a huge sponsor and scholarship. So many of our participants, they come up and do kind of paving basics, and then the level 1B technician side.
Hmm.
Then we get the participants out there and we get them on a paving train. So Holt Cat is donating an AP 1000 paver at
Nice.
no cost to the program
Nice.
for this cohort as well. So thanks so much to John Guzman and Holt Cat for doing that. We get
Ding.
out there and they
Yep.
get so they get on a paver, they get on rollers, they get on broom, and they go through the whole process. We lay sand, we lay wrap, all the way leading up to laying hot mix asphalt. So they get to go through that whole process. Then Texapa comes back up and they do 1A training. We teach them how to cut cores, weigh things up in the lab, and then hopefully plug them into industry and have a job coming out. So that may have been more the quarter tour, not the nickel tour, but that's kind of what
No,
we've got going on.
that's awesome. So I think some of the new things this year is have you're at the point now where people are going, hey, I want to be part of this, right? And so when we reached out to Cat said, "Yeah, we want to be involved in that." And Knife River has hired a number of the people that have come through your
Yes,
program. And
that's
so,
right.
hey, we find the advantage of, yeah, we'll loan you our guy, and because we may end up picking up another, qualified people at the end. So that to me is, I think, is kind of the cool thing that this thing is. It's getting some legs, it's getting some traction. It's still pretty small. It's because you're having to deal with a pretty small group because of you got that individual attention. It's not like you got a people of 100 people and are sitting in a classroom all day. They're actually out doing the work, and so that to me is building the reps, if you will, of hey, this is something I really want to do. And I was talking to them yesterday. We spent all day with them yesterday out there, and I said, guys, this is just something. You're going to be exposed to all these different areas and you go, that was okay. I didn't really like that, but I really kind of like this area. So, and you don't even know what all these different areas are yet. And so that is really, I think, kind of the really cool thing about this is you're getting some people exposed to that. Now, this year, the thing I noticed yesterday is they're not just high school grads. You got a few older folks now that And I asked them, I said, "Where did you find this?" And that for most of them, we found the ad on Facebook. And I was
Yeah.
like, "Well, okay, there we go." So we're finding better ways of marketing and promoting this, and so that's all cool. So where do you go from here? You're in the second week, I think now, or third week.
Third week.
Third week.
Yep.
We just
Yep.
started the third week. You got basically this week and then 3 more weeks, and then there'll be some people looking for jobs. If anybody's
That's
looking for
right.
people, let me know and we'll get you hooked up with Charles. Um, but what's next after this?
So we're actually hoping to host another cohort this summer
Okay.
because we are going to try to capture those high school students that don't necessarily have a plan after high school.
Okay.
And we do kind of have a focus on kind of a rural poor population with that here in the Brazos Valley. So I have a recruiter, Rick Davenport, really
Yep.
does yeoman's work on trying
Good
to
guy.
find the
Yep.
participants and bringing them in. So the program's only successful when he finds folks. So we do want to host our fourth cohort this summer. It will be geared probably that 18 to 21-ish range,
Okay.
trying to get that group plugged into the industry.
Good.
That's what we have in the near term. And then honestly, Jim, we've got to figure out like what are we providing for the state? Because
Mhm.
TexAPA has supported it, your members have supported it, but we've been local. And the question I think for me
Yep.
becomes, do we have a statewide reach? And I think that's difficult to figure out because there's a lot of really great relationships, and we get to use the A&M Rellis campus and kind of have a closed environment here.
Well,
And to just say pick that up and replicate it in Midland or Lubbock that's a lot of work, right? And so
there's a
then the
lot of
question
yeah, there's
becomes,
a lot
well,
of work in this program. Absolutely. Yep.
right, the logistics. I mean, I broker most of it because we have people like you come up. We've got industry professionals that bring the knowledge, which we think is important because we want it to be an industry-led program. We want
Hmm.
people that come out to have touched and felt how to lay hot mix, and that has to be done with an industry pro.
Yep.
So how to replicate that is difficult, and so then we have to face the question of, well, can we be a destination program? Well, if we're a destination program, there's some cost of living associated with that, and so if especially if it's a poor population, or if we have some people that don't come from means that would like to be
Hmm.
part of it, how do we overcome that?
Right.
These are questions that after we finish our fourth cohort, I have to figure out, because the truth is we've got 9 in the current cohort, and let's just say we have 10 in the summer cohort. That means I have 19 participants here in the Brazos Valley. Well, we've got a lot of demand here, but I don't know if we can plug 19 people into the asphalt paving and production industry
Right.
right here
Right here.
locally.
Right. Right here.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so I've got to figure that out. And I don't know what that looks like. I have some thoughts, and Rick and I've been working through it, trying to talk through what that looks
Hmm.
like. We need TexAPA members to tell us, what they think, and
Hmm.
maybe we just function as kind of the recruiting arm, and I send Rick to Midland and he recruits people from Midland. Maybe he finds 2 or 3 participants, and then we work with TexAPA members out there to maybe
Hmm.
sponsor them to come here. I don't know if
Yeah.
that's the right answer. There's some value, I think, in industry for that, because we recruit people to an industry that maybe a lot of people don't know about, right? So we
Right.
go find the people,
Right.
and then we get them in and we drug test them. And so we get that out of the way too. We introduce them to a lot of our industry. And so when they come back to you, they know what they're getting themselves into.
Yeah.
And so hopefully they're invested in the career track.
Yeah.
So that's so short term, another cohort this summer. Long term, what does the program look like? Is it just a regional thing? How does it have a statewide reach? How do we do that?
Gotcha. Gotcha. So
Yep.
all that to be determined. So,
Right.
say somebody's listening to this and go, "Hey, I'd like to be part of that. How do I get involved?" So
Yeah,
what do
so
I?
you wanna reach out to Rick Davenport. He's our guy on that. So you can send him an email at r-davenport, that's Davenport, at tti.tamu.edu. So
Okay.
r-davenport at tti.tamu.edu. And
Okay.
he'll
Awesome.
get back with you and we'll start the process.
Good deal. Good deal. Yeah. And I get just from my perspective, being involved in, I guess, all three of them to some
Yep.
extent. Last two actually in the classroom, the first two out in the field and that sort of stuff, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool deal. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. So, I think it's worth your time. They need people. They need, donations of loans of equipment for a couple weeks to do these different things, and always looking for, opportunities to do that. And again, a big shout out to Holt Cat this year, and Knife River for supplying their trainers and that kind of stuff. And that's a big deal. So good deal.
Yep.
Let's switch gears. Time
Sure.
is flying as usual it is when we talk. Um, but one thing that we've been the if you don't know, Texas is, obviously we have a lot of loads, we have a lot of traffic, it's a lot of growth, that sort of stuff, and over the last couple of years, we've been working with a group on heavy duty pavements in general, okay, to handle the increased loads that are way bigger than we ever thought that they would be when we actually go out and measure them. And the right now maintenance division is revising their manual, and they're putting that guidance in the new pavement manual, and that should be coming out this year. There's a new pavement design software, FPS 23, with the TechSemi module and all that sort of stuff. That's out now. But one of the things that we kind of was thinking about, it's like, hey, we got all these highways, but we have intersections out there, and these intersections get a different level of traffic. And maybe we need to spend some time on intersections. So, from your perspective, Charles, what constitutes maybe a heavy? What's a definition of maybe a heavy duty intersection? What does that mean to you when I say that?
Yeah, so I'm going to give you the typical engineer answer that it
All right, there we
depends,
go.
right? All right, so it
All right,
depends. And the reason I say it depends is because it looks different in Metro Houston than it does in a rural intersection in
okay,
Midland, Odessa,
okay,
right? So Midland,
okay.
Odessa can have rural unsignalized intersections where they're going to be heavy duty because they're going to have very heavy trucks, many over 80,000 pounds that
Energy
are going to
sector.
be
Yep,
they're
yep,
going to be stop and go, right? They're going to come in, they're going to stop to turn right from a US highway to
yep,
an FM road.
yep.
In terms of volume, like there may not, like you think about what, say, FM 1960 inside the Beltway in Houston carries, right? Compared
Hmm.
to volume wise, it's not the same, but load wise, in that stopping action and the heat when that stopping action occurs, right? All of that makes that a heavy duty intersection.
Okay,
But
okay.
then the same is true. You go in a metro area, truck volume comes way down. Out there, truck volume might have been 30, 40, maybe even more than that percent of the total ADT. You go in a metro area, you might bring your truck volume down to 12%, 10%, maybe even single digits. But if you're talking about carrying 150,000 cars a day, that's still a lot of trucks. And
Mhm.
with those trucks, you also end up having a stop and go environment because then it's not just the putting on the brakes, stopping coming into an intersection. It's putting on the brakes, stopping 2,500 feet from an intersection because now we're going to creep through it. And so then we have that slow loading. And so anytime you have heavy duty loads, so truck traffic that are having a stopping action, that's going to create a heavy duty
The
intersection.
shear, right?
That's
Yep.
right. The
Okay.
shear
Yep.
and just and then the shear coming to a stop, the shear taking off, that sort of thing. But
Good.
then also when you have this, can be a lower truck volume, can even be lighter trucks, but you have this stop and then wait, sit there for a long time, especially in hot weather, right? Asphalt's viscoelastic, right? So it
Yep.
gets hot. It wants to do different things than when it's
Yep.
cold.
Yep.
So I think both of those constitute a heavy duty
Okay.
intersection, if that makes
Okay.
sense.
And you even got, we talk about it, you even got the heat coming off the vehicles that are just radiating. It's not radiating up. Some of it's coming up, but it's also coming down and out as well, and that's heating up the surface of whatever's underneath it. And like you said, if we don't have the right binder in the mix, we could potentially have a problem in there. So,
And I think, Jim,
um,
it may even be worth reminding, people that are listening, like when we think about designing asphalt pavements, like think of your nearest interstate that you ride on, right? You get out there, you go 75 or 85, depending on, right? Whatever you do, right? But as your tires cross the pavement, right, that pavement sees it's like a load rest, load rest, load rest, load rest, right? it goes fast. But
Right.
in when you go into this stop and go environment, it becomes load, rest, load, rest. I mean, the
Okay.
rest period is almost non-existent,
Okay.
and that is a it's a different way of thinking about pavement design in the way that we built test procedures in the lab and stuff like that. So I think it's people need to remember that when we separate the two.
Okay. I think that's a really good point because that's we've heard that from like Mike Ariano with the loads here in Austin and we're getting into like this linear train of just, slow moving vehicles and the load response that we classically would use for design is different and we're gonna have to adjust for that and as we go forward and that's gonna take different materials and different techniques and different thicknesses and all that sort of stuff. How deep do we have to go? I mean, if we got an existing roadway out there that has distress in the intersection, how deep can we just mill off? Can we fix it with 2 inches and mill it off and put it back? Or are we going to have to get down there and get into that pavement structure?
Yeah. So it depends,
It
right?
depends.
And this is the funny thing about engineers. They
Yeah,
they always say that because they don't know what to say, and then they have to think of their answer. So that's the
there you
real
go.
reason engineers say it
It gives you
depends.
it gives you 30 seconds to figure it out. Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Um, so I think this look flexible pavements, and I don't think it doesn't matter intersection or non-intersection related. You can't talk about flexible pavements until you say, are you building it on a good foundation? Because if
Amen.
you're not building it on a good foundation, then you should expect failure and you can't blame the hot mix. You can't blame your surface mixes. You can't blame your upper mixes for failure when you tried to build it over mush. It just
Hmm.
doesn't that so you have to make sure your foundation is adequate. There's all sorts of ways to do that. I
Yeah.
think intersections should have their fair share of forensics testing done because what you want to do is you want to make sure whatever you're putting it on is adequate. So then once you know that, you can make a better decision. If you've got really good subsurface, so that would be probably some sort of treated subgrade, either really good base material,
Hmm.
ideally, in my opinion, treated base material would be great also. Um, you might be able to fix it in a shallow repair. Now, I think 2 inches is might be kind of tough.
Hmm.
There's a lot of shear action that occurs at an
That's a good point.
intersection.
Yep. Yep.
And that shear and where that maximum shear action occurs in the depth of the mix might be down about an inch and a half. I think there's a lot of science behind that, and to be honest with you, a lot of it's way over my head. But it's not exactly happening at the surface. And so if that maximum shear is occurring near an interface you put down, and your bond is not just really really
Yeah.
good,
Yeah.
you're going to get slipping delaminations, and it doesn't have anything to do with the subsurface. And honestly speaking, it really doesn't have anything to do with the quality of the mix you put on. It has to do with that bond, between a shallow bond. So
Okay.
you've got to be really careful doing
Okay.
intersection repairs with a shallow bond.
Okay.
I think getting down at 3 to 4 inches is a better approach.
Okay.
But when you do that, you got to be careful about your lift thicknesses. We need good compaction,
Yeah.
and you don't want to create an interface because you want to overcome that slippage. So again, intersections are unique. You need to think about how you design them, how you build them. And so that I don't know if I answered your question, but I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of moving parts with it, Jim.
Well, I think that to me is the key is there are a lot of moving parts, but then it's not a one size fit all. And
That's exactly
we
right.
we've established a group that's met a couple times now, and you've actually presented last time we were there with some kind of here's some things to think about, right? And I
Yep.
thought you did a great job at that. That's why I wanted to talk a little bit more about it today to kind of let other people know that if you're having issues it's there's folks working on this, and we've got some ideas, and and we've got the pavement design people involved in it. We got the maintenance people involved in it. We got the industry involved in it. We're trying to figure out, if we do need to go deep, how can we do that? Okay.
Mhm.
Obviously, we could shut the intersection down for 3 months and then dig it all up and do it that way, but that's not a realistic expectation, not a realistic thing that we could even do. So how do we do it quickly but do it right? Okay. And I think when we're having that discussion is we may not be able to do it as quickly as maybe one shift, but I need a shift in a couple hours, to do maybe I need a little longer shift to do some of this works and then phase it properly. And that's one of the things we've got a meeting coming up, and we're going to say, hey, for a typical or for examples of different types of intersections, get the industry involved with the maintenance people and say, well, how would you phase this if we had to go deeper, right? And so how could we build this in that situation, which is different than what we're doing now? And so I think it's not a materials thing, not just a materials thing. It's not just a design thing, but it's in many cases the constructability is just as big a partner, if not an overriding partner, and says, hey, we can't shut this thing down for more than X. And we're going to have that discussion. Maybe I need X plus two
Yeah.
to be able to do that. But if I want to fix it right, definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. We understand that. And so I think that there are some opportunities with materials and rethinking thicknesses and rethinking phasing on these intersections that I think is going to be a real big benefit that comes out of this group that I think is going to help the whole industry in the big scheme of things.
I think
So
I think you're right. It has to be a holistic solution, and
there you
maintenance of
go.
traffic
Yeah,
with constructability has to be part of the design. It's not just going to be material engineers, material scientists, and construction engineers
right.
in the industry that completely help us with this. Maintenance of traffic has to be key in what we do, and I do think, and maybe this is just as somebody that drives around, like we do have customers, and it is the
Absolutely.
people, or they are the people that use the roadway. And
Hmm.
how we figure out maintenance of traffic, how we communicate that in the field. Are there ways where we can somewhat standardize that? Like, okay, we've got a four-legged intersection.
Hmm.
How should we build it in a way that, as a driver, and you could, maybe I'm giving drivers too much credit, but if I encounter an intersection under construction in one spot, it looks very similar to encountering it somewhere else. I think maintenance of traffic constructability has to be part of it. And to be honest with you, from a constructability and pavement design standpoint, how we treating intersections differently, we've been a little behind the curve. Safety folks have always treated intersections differently,
Mm.
right? So
Yep.
safety people have always said, hey, let's look at how we solve safety at an intersection problem. That's different than looking at safety on tangent roadways, run off the road, and stuff
Right.
like that, right? They've
Right.
always said
That's
intersections
true.
are unique from a
That's
safety
true.
perspective.
That's
Well, they're
true.
unique from a design and a construction and a material perspective too. And we've got to get there.
Yeah. Even, and we've had some early discussions like, where does the intersection start?
Yeah, that's
It's
right.
not like right here where the stop bars are. It goes back and like you were talking about earlier, you've got long deacceleration periods. That's where that load is shifting from, kind of rolling to kind of digging in, and we may need to go back a ways. And I
That's
think
right.
that's again part of that whole discussion that we're having this rethink on this and say, okay, if we want to fix this problem, it really starts back here. So
Yep.
let's do all this up to this point, and then let's phase. Maybe that gives us an opportunities in the phasing, or maybe more challenges to
I,
do that. But just like the manual on uniform traffic control devices, designates standard widths of lanes, standard skips, standard type signs, all that sort of stuff. So whether you're in College Station or you're in Athens, Georgia, you're seeing the same
that's
thing,
right.
right? And
Yep.
and so that helps train, the drivers that say, this is what a stop sign looks like. This is what a stop bar looks like. This is what, this is what the yellow line means. And so
Yep.
when we're doing that, I think we can, if we take this opportunity to give this a really good thought, and work through what we know and also try to understand the unintended consequences of what we're doing, we're going to end up with much better intersections
Yep.
and that are very serviceable and last a long time. So that's really what we're trying to
Well,
do
because if they're
with that.
so unique and they're such a pain to deal with, we don't want to go back, right? So
Exactly.
let's
Exactly.
figure this out. Yeah.
Exactly. Let's do it. What was it? Uh, buy once, cry once, or something,
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
whatever that term is. I'm gonna spend a little bit more and deal with it and make sure I get it done right because I certainly don't want to have to, do this again. If you ever have a
Exactly.
foundation repair, it's like, well, don't give me the cheapest guy. Give me the one that's like I'm never gonna have to dig a hole in my living room, and
That
have a drill
ever
in there
again.
again,
Yeah, that's right.
to do that. My dogs just don't like it, or whatever that is. So, opportunity. So we appreciate what you've been doing and is kind of help setting the stage for that and giving us things to think about with that. And so, again, they're just letting people know there's an active group working on this issue,
Yep.
and you can certainly reach out to me if you've got examples or something that
Oh yeah.
may be unique or different. And it's Jay Warren at texasasphalt.org. And we'll go from there. So we got a little bit of time left. I wanted to talk about something that's fun. And I was talking to Corey Schwartz, runs our HMAC center, big part of Texapa around here. And we were cleaning up when the thing was over and talking about it. And we kind of leaned over, looked at each other. It's like, I told Corey, I said, this is the funnest day in my whole year at
Yep.
Texapa is the rodeo. And for those of you that don't know, we had our 8th year running an asphalt rodeo. We had to take a couple years off during COVID where we did kind of an online investigatory, sleuth kind of deal. But we've been bringing college students in here every year. It was in the fall for a while. Now we're doing it in the spring. We reach out to a bunch of different schools in Texas and even outside of Texas. Oklahoma and Louisiana have been big players for a long time. Arkansas was a new school this year, and so we almost had New Mexico this year, and so we're reaching out there. But we've got typically 3 or 4 or 5 schools in Texas that participate, and we get them on board. They develop a team of 3 or 4 people, and we send them buckets of rock and wrap and gallons of liquid. And we say, here's the criteria. You've got to make a slab that's 2 foot or 20 inches or 2 foot,
20 inches by 20 inches by two
by two
inches.
inches. There we
Yeah,
go.
it's a goofy size.
It's a goofy size, but the UT and Ahmet Basin was one of the originators with helping get us going on it. They came up with a rut test, a crack, which is a non-standard test,
Yeah.
but they're fun. Okay, and we measure skid, rut, and crack, and so these students are they have to go take this material. Some of these have never even seen asphalt before. They know nothing about it. And I think that's the cool part is they go on, they do their research. They have a mentor, like Charles was the mentor for the A&M team this year. And we've got great mentors from UTEP and Texas State and, a bunch of other schools. Um, and so these kids, young adults, they put these slabs together and then they come to Texapa. And so they come in on a Friday afternoon. We meet and greet, and everybody brings their stuff in. We have a dinner and talk about stuff. And then Saturday morning we start the testing. And so Dr. Bassine's got a matrix that he puts together, and we get everybody lined up. And you've got to get your slab tested in these 3 different places, and then you've got to give a presentation on why you did what you did and kind of make your pitch. And so these are awesome as well. So there's a lot of energy in here. We probably had 100 people in here a couple weeks ago on a Saturday, which was again just a lot of fun. And and then they do the testing, and then they get graded on their rut, their ride, their crack, and their presentation. And then at the end, we award scholarships. First place team gets, I think, $2,000 a head. Second place
Yeah.
team gets $1,000 a check per person, and then everybody gets a travel stipend of like it's like $250. So it kind of handles your room and dinner and
Yep.
that sort of stuff. So we try not to keep people kind of whole in it. So we had 7 schools. I think we had 11 teams this year,
Yep.
which is I think our biggest group. And you had a team last year that tried some stuff. and then they some of those came back, right? Or is this we had
No,
two
that's right. Yeah, that's right, Jim. So I brought two teams.
two
A&M entered
teams?
two teams this
That's right,
year.
two teams.
Yep,
That's
yep,
right.
two teams. Yep, and
So
we actually entered. Yeah, so
so
one of the teams.
how did you get those folks interested? Because you're now in construction science. You're not in the kind of necessarily really
Yeah,
the civil
yeah,
side.
I don't interact quite as much on the civil side, but so last year in, so I guess let's see, this is 2025. So in 2024, I brought a civil team, civil a group of civil engineering teams down there. And the truth is, Jim, I had a young lady in my civil engineering 342 class that was or that is an honors student, and so she has to have an additional honors part of the class. So
Oh,
last year, what I said was, your part of the class is to be the team captain, and we're going to go down there and compete in the Asphalt Rodeo. Um, and so we came down there last year, learned a lot, and this year she wanted to do it again along with one of the young men that was on the team. And
okay.
so I said, great, you guys go find two other civil kids and we'll make a civil team. And then now I'm on the co-side, construction science side of the house. I went to Professor Cook's class full of sophomores and pitched the idea. And Professor Cook was nice enough to say, if you'll compete on Charles's team, I'll make it your required semester project.
Well,
So
there we go.
again,
Cool.
so
Awesome.
I had so that created the COSI team.
Okay.
Yeah, so we brought two teams down there this
Okay.
year. Yeah, and now the fortunate part about it was my civil team. One of the guys that came along this year, he's just a sophomore. He's already emailed me, says, "Hey, I want to do it again." So I'll have him recruit the civil kids next year.
There you
All of
go.
my COSI kids are sophomores,
Oh,
and they
okay.
won thanks and
They
Gig'em. So
won.
they all want to come back,
They all want
right?
to come
So
back.
I think it's one of those things that hopefully when you get students involved, I think it's important try to have at least one or two non-graduating
Hmm.
participants on your team so that then it just kind of feeds itself year over year. That's my business plan with it, Jim.
Awesome. Awesome. So obviously you were kind of a mentor for that, and
Mhm.
you're not there to tell them how to do it, but you're there to answer questions and kind of lead them along a little bit. If you remember, what did the teams do differently this year? What because there was like a little bit of a sustainability kind of angle to it a little bit this year, and we changed that a little bit year. What were did they bring to the table this year?
Yeah, so the civil team they just took a like a virgin sample down there that had wrap in it last year. That's what
Okay.
they did last year, and they were
Yeah.
like, "Hey, we want to do something a little different," and so they decided they were going to incorporate crushed glass into their
Okay.
slab.
Oh,
So
that's
they
right.
went down
That's right.
that. Yep, they went
That's
down the
right.
crushed glass
Yep.
road. You know what was interesting about those guys is they were a little ahead of the curve from last year, and so they mixed and molded some trial samples and
Hmm.
actually ran a Hamburg test on it
Okay.
and it did not perform well in the Hamburg. And they drew the conclusion, and I concurred with it. We thought it was a stripping issue.
Okay.
We did not think it was rut susceptible.
Okay.
And so we didn't really make very many modifications.
Okay.
And we might have been a little wrong there. They did
Okay.
really great in the presentation.
Hmm.
And hey, competition is also about performance, right? Their
Yep.
slab did not perform well.
Yep.
But I was
Okay.
super proud of them, their idea and their presentation.
Good deal.
Um, the COSI kids, they decided they wanted to incorporate bamboo into the mix. Oh boy, here we go. Yes,
I got a piece.
that's right. So they started with that and they were like, what do we do with this? And I'm like, I don't know,
It's
guys. Like
because
y'all are
one of the
like,
kids has got bamboo in his backyard. One of the
that's
guys.
exactly
Remember him
right.
saying, I got all this stuff I don't know what to do with.
And so that what we did is we fell into a company that had actually reached out to A&M a long time ago about R&D. They make charcoal bamboo
Okay.
and they're actually infusing it with some bio stuff. They want to turn charcoal bamboo into peat moss. And I'm like, well, okay, I don't
Oh,
know anything
okay.
about that, but
Okay.
they
Okay.
said, here's a bag. And I'm like, great. I don't care anything about peat moss. We're going to stick it in hot mix and see
Hmm.
what happens.
Yeah.
And so those guys, they scalped the number 10 sieve and replaced 5% of what their number 10 was with this charcoal bamboo.
Okay.
We did that because when they sieved out the charcoal bamboo, a lot of it sat on the number 10. Also, we were doing a type D mix, which has a lot of number 10 stuff sitting
Hmm.
on the number 10. So it was kind of the path of least resistance.
Okay.
Um, Anyways, it worked out for those guys. I don't know if it was dumb luck. I don't know what the heck happened there, but those guys produced a slab that performed really well
Yeah.
and they won the whole thing. So really proud of those guys as well.
Did they come back and talk to you?
Oh yeah.
All right.
I've had a lot of talk and they're really pumped and they
I,
want
I
to
told them they need to take some of that money and buy you lunch. I don't know if they've done that yet, but
no,
tell them remind
no,
remind them remind them.
I'll
Yeah,
I'll probably end up buying their lunch, Jim.
yeah, yeah, probably.
But
So
everybody had a lot of fun, and I really appreciate Tex Appa for putting it on. I think it is amazing. It's a way to get our kids. I know I say the same thing, right? It's a way to get these young adults, these college students, into our industry
hmm
that is requires a lot of thought, knowledge, engineering, construction, and a lot of them don't even know it exists. And I think
yeah,
this is just a phenomenal springboard. So thank you
yeah.
and Corey and Tex Appa for all they do.
Oh,
It's an amazing setup.
it's not me, man. It's everybody. Emily, everybody, Becky, everybody's involved in it. Amit with UTEP,
Yep.
they bring people down actually to run the testing and evaluate
I
that.
mean, TxDOT brings people in. It's great.
Atlas donated their friction tester for us this year, so I mean it's a huge effort. We have sponsored, we have people coming out talking to kids about employment opportunities and stuff.
Yep.
So it's a heck of a lot of fun. Um, so what from your perspective, and can you kind of mention a little bit, what does this do for the students? What is that? What's the? I mean, we were talking earlier before this thing about just learning and how we're learning and that sort of stuff. But what does a program like that give a college, give them the experience to do that? What does that bring to them?
You can't really quantify it at all because what it does is it moves them from classroom learning to applied learning,
Okay.
and it is a huge step in the growth process of taking what you've learned in the classroom and seeing it put into practice and then understanding all of the different parts that go into an industry, right? You can
Yep.
go to work on the aggregate side, you can
Yep.
go to work on the binder side, you can go to work on the composite side, you can be a designer, you can be a builder, you can all of this comes together to create an industry. And I think they also begin to see an industry. And I think that's
Mm.
important for them, right? They get out of that.
Sure.
And so just the ability to do that in and then hopefully, ideally, like as an academic, right? You go and hopefully they tie it back like, man, somebody taught me that. And it turns out that was important, right? Like I hope that happens
All
for
that
some
stuff
of
you've been
them.
teaching me, it had applicability. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That's
I
funny.
hope it happens for some of them. So
Awesome.
I think it's huge and it's such an advantage for the ones that participate in it.
Good deal. Good deal. Hey, enjoyed the conversation today. I always try to wrap up with a couple questions. What's the hardest part of your job right now, other than grading exams?
Yeah, I think the hardest part is just giving the right amount of attention to everything I have in the pot right
Ten
now.
four.
True,
Gotcha.
we've got
Yep.
active workforce development. I'm in the middle of teaching 3 courses, have a lot of research going on, and so the hardest part of my job is being too busy, which is also the biggest blessing of my job, right? Because
Amen.
that's a great problem to have. So that's where I'm
Amen.
at right now.
Amen. Um, when we were leaving the class yesterday, one of the guys in the class actually had watched several of these episodes, and I was like, "Well, you get A+ for that,
Gold star for
gold
you.
star for that." Um, but we're walking out the door. I'm carrying all my gear, and he's carrying some of his stuff, and he goes, he says, "King for a day. What do you change and why?" And I was like. Yeah, I said that's part of my show. He goes, "Yeah, I'm asking you." And I was like, "Well, no one's ever asked me." So I had to say it depends, and it gave me a little bit of time to think about it. But I want to throw it to you. Is make you king for the you get to change anything. What is it and why?
Can I cut the tax rate to zero? Can we go right
You
there?
can do
And is that
whatever
how
you want.
that's
I
right?
just wrote I
Cut
just
the
wrote a
tax rate to
check
zero,
to.
keep more money in my pocket, and
I
everything will
There
be
you
better,
go.
right?
I'm good with that. I'm good with
That's
that. I'm good
that's
with
what we'll
that.
go with. That's the easy answer because it's April 15th. So what better answer to give you on April 15th than that right
Yeah.
there?
I just wrote a check this weekend, and I wasn't too thrilled about it, but
Yeah,
whatever.
I've got to go. I've got to walk to the post office in just a minute.
There you go. You could do that electronically now. It's a new thing, you know. Just
Yeah, I know,
FYI.
I've heard.
Yeah, there you go. What did we forget to talk about today? Did we miss
Um,
anything? Anything else that you're working on that's cool that we need to know?
you know, golly, that's a really good question. I'm trying to think. Doing lots of cool stuff on the workforce development side. I know you guys are as well, but
Hmm.
the idea of using like immersive video and things like
Hmm.
that, and how we
Yep.
transition into ways to train the workforce. And this is from frontline employees all the way up to our professionals and the way to convey knowledge. I think we're in a huge transition, Jim. I know you think the same thing,
Yep.
and how we build the right trainings.
Yep.
Doing a lot of work in that space right now.
Cool.
So,
Cool.
yeah, so that's some fun stuff I've got in the hopper.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Charles, thank you so much. Again, we appreciate it. Again, you are working on all kinds of different things. I don't know how you keep it straight. And we're very appreciative that you're out there. We're appreciative of everything you do for the industry. And thank you again for reaching out and sponsoring some teams this year and breathing the industry into these young adults as they kind of try to figure out what they're going to do with the rest of their lives. So, big deal. Thank you so much for that. That's all we've got the time for today. Again, we appreciate you signing in and watching us today. Again, these will be up on our YouTube site typically on Friday. We'll also put up an audio version on Spotify and Apple Podcast. Um, and so again, we're here every third Thursday at 3 o'clock, and we try to present this. If you've got any ideas of what you'd like to see, shoot me an email, jwarren@texasasphalt.org. If you like the show, let us know. If you don't like the show, well, send it to Charles. No, you can send it to me too. We try to take a lot of constructive criticism around here. Try to always do things that are adding value in what we're doing. So that's all the time we got today. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time on Everyday Asphalt. Ever forward, everybody. Take care.